celluloid, and we're turning it into music and podcast for you.
Very rarely give my consent to anything, so that's surprising. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of We Came From Celluloid. I am Nicky P, here as always with Mr. Pritchard. We have with us our tour mate, a guest of the extraordinary variety, Mr. Joe Petrick. How are we doing there, Joe?
I'm doing all right. How you guys doing?
Both busy as hell is all I know.
Fantastic, man.
Got a lot going on.
I'm excited. Excited to have you on.
I was excited that I finally got to download those tracks you sent me some point in time in the past. And then I actually sat down and watched the video for me, myself, and I'm like, man, Joe just looks so sinister. he's a little scary. And I know you're a nice guy, but it's like in the video, you're putting off a vibe.
Yeah. Well, that whole song is just about, inner negative self-talk, negative self-thought. I don't know why that was so hard to get out of my tongue, but, so, the whole idea was that is that we can be pretty sinister to ourselves, and we generally are probably, or at least I find from my experience, a lot of other people I've talked to, way worse on ourselves than we are to other people, which,
Well, honestly, most people are too self-absorbed to give a shit. So
no, I don't. I have a prevailing theory that some of the people that are even more self-absorbed, it's just like, you really don't know what's rattling around in that noggin of theirs. I think a lot of times people are thrown off a vibe, and a lot of that is it's kind of like puffing out your chest or something, just to push people away and like, leave me alone, but
well, I wasn't even meaning it from a derogatory sense. It's just like we are all the leader of our own story and just generally aren't paying attention to other people's stuff other than we need to. It's like everyone, it's the one thing, when I've done a little coaching with people with stage fright and stuff, and one of the things I tell them was like, I got this great piece of advice once. I don't remember where I heard it, but they said there's 4 people on the planet that can dance. One of them is Michael Jackson, and you'll never meet the other 3.
Yeah.
So just have fun.
Yeah.
Just do your thing.
Exactly.
The bottom line is no one goes to a show to like see somebody suck. They are hoping they're gonna watch something awesome. Like that's their goal. So you're just trying to help them do what they want. And insofar as like you suck, they're probably just gonna talk to the people at the table and ignore you. Like out of the 20-some years that I've been performing, I can't think of any time that anyone's ever genuinely harassed or heckled me on stage for anything.
Exactly. Well, I have, but
other than when I've asked for it, and I do that fairly often too. So
yeah, and to me, the probably the worst thing, I realized this early on. The worst thing you could do is give no reaction to somebody, because who are the 2 types of bands that you're always going to remember? The really good ones that were just amazing performers, and the really awful ones that were just awful performers. So I think I'd rather have somebody go away saying, wow, that band was absolutely atrocious. I mean, of course I don't want that, but I would rather them be so put off by what they're hearing, and get a visceral reaction that way, than them just being like, whatever. Just being forgettable. I think a lot of people don't realize that. It's just like, well, I don't want to embarrass myself. Okay, well then don't worry about it. Then you're never going to stand out. Nobody's ever going to pay attention. And if you're comfortable with that, then yeah, you can be the mediocre band forever, so, aggravate people one way or the other,
Well, it's one of the things that, and this has been a change for me. Like, so I'm a big guy right now. I've been a big guy for a number of years, and that's not been the norm for most of my life. But one of the things I've had to deal with is like when you're a big guy, you kind of want to blend into the background. You don't want people to notice you. Now that's not how you have to be on stage. And so there's a certain degree to which I've had to get comfortable in my head with like, well, I'm here. They're gonna notice it one way or the other. So what ways can I play with this and have fun with it? And so like that's definitely been the genesis of our one song, Ray Ray's Full Service. It's based on, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie A Dirty Shame by John Waters, where Johnny Knoxville plays a sex apostle.
I no, I'm not familiar with that one. I generally am always intrigued by John Waters.
It's one of my personal favorites. It's got Chris Isaac and Johnny Knoxville in it. And just Johnny Knoxville plays a sex apostle. And the whole song is just all overt, lurid sexual stuff. So it's like, the only thing I knew is that my fat ass needs to jiggle the fuck all over stage
Yeah.
during that song. If nothing else, like that's the one thing I have to do.
Yeah.
Be as weirdly, off-puttingly sexual as I can be.
Well, I know. John Waters changed that bird. A bird is a word. He totally changed that for me in Pink Flamingos. So I'll never see that song the same ever again. So thank you, sir, for ruining that.
You know, he came up in conversation the other day too, just as far as the notion of like storytellers that have sensitivity and affinity for weirdos. John Waters is a delightful outlier in that respect. But no, one thing I just wanted to add as far as the sinister vibe and stage presence is that you absolutely lean into that in a fun and playful way almost any time I've ever seen you perform, right? That you are you're known to arch an eyebrow is what I'm trying to say, right? That when I picture you at the microphone, I feel like you are pulling faces. You know what I'm saying? Like you're doing things in terms of your uh like mime work to your guitar and vocal work. You're doing some mime work on stage, so don't be coy about the mime work, I guess. I'm trying to say.
No, it's it's stage presence. If you're so fearful that you don't move, like nobody's gonna complain about that. Like most people are. It's not like they're gonna throw vegetables at you, but like it's loosen up, have fun. That's what's gonna pull the rest of the crowd into it. When you're in a band, I learned it's just like you're bringing the entertainment. So you have to. If I'm writing a song and I perform it live and I wrote it and I don't express it through besides the instrument itself, but some sort of body language that shows that like I wrote it, like it could be perceived by the audience that wow, he wrote this and he doesn't even seem impressed or enjoying it at all. So it's
Well, the opposite of that, you're right. Like even with bands I love, there's been songs right within their catalog that I don't dig, and then seeing them perform it and catching some sense, even if it's performative of being like, oh, they love this song. Like you're sort of going, maybe I'm missing something here. You know what I mean? It can be really captivating.
yeah, and recordings don't always capture what a song is like live. I've got friends that I've known for years that their albums technically production wise are very good, but when I listen to them, I'm just like, you're still gotta like see this guy to really understand. If all you were listening to was the recording, you're not really completely capturing what they are as a live performer. And it's happened to me so many times that like a lot of bands anymore, it's just like I kind of don't want to listen to your Spotify page until after I've seen you live. It doesn't always happen, but if I'm going to a show and I'm just like, I'm not familiar with the openers, I don't research into it. I'm like, you know what? Show me what you got. If you're a live band, show me what you got, and then I'll go back and listen to your catalog, because then I feel I have a better understanding, and I'll have a picture in my mind of what that band is, and it just has a lot more meaning and understanding of the whole thing, you know. And again, it just very well be I go back to the recordings and be like, man, I'll go see that band live again, but I am not listening to this album again because it just doesn't capture it. It's hard. It's really hard.
I tend to be an album guy. Like, that's just what I gravitate towards. Like, don't get me wrong, I love live music, but like I'm a sucker for something that's well produced and like put together. That being said, I think you could possibly ever capture what Typo Negative was in anything that wasn't live, because just like dude's presence is ridiculous. It's like it's just seeing him doing what he does is so ridiculous, and it's like, yeah, it's okay, it's cool, it's a deep voice on the record, but then like when you that's taking away the fact that he looks like Frankenstein on stage, just massive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I remember Fantômas being a band where I was into Mike Patton stuff, right? I would listen to, you know, something like the Suspended Animation album, and just be like, I don't know, dude, this is a fucking mess of a record to me, right? And then I remember picking up a DVD of theirs that was released and watching the like live performance, and being really struck by the fact that they were able to replicate that stuff like on stage at all, is going, oh,
Yeah, I saw that tour.
this is organized chaos at a level that I didn't even comprehend. Like that, it's like it didn't make me necessarily want to put the album on as a listener any more often than I did before. But it totally changed my understanding and appreciation for it. You know what I mean? To sit there and be like, oh, seeing you like pull that off, that's a game changer. You say you saw that live?
Yeah, I saw that live. What was that? Jeez, that was like 2003 or something. I mean, it's like time flies. It was a year so long ago. But yeah, that was the one that was like, it's all the days in April or something, right? Or something. And yeah, because it's like each song was a different day, and it is. It's just like when I saw them, like you said, recreate that whole album in order live, I'm just like, wow, that's impressive. Because when you listen to it, you could very easily be like, oh, just a bunch of studio trickery going on here, and you're just taking me on a wacky Mike Patton adventure, and it's like, no, they perform that. Yes, exactly.
It's meticulously designed. Yeah. Joe, I'm curious for you, like, was I know some of the discography sort of steps along the way. I never got to see Happy Rainbow Death perform. I've heard the material, and it's an act that like looms large in my mind as part of your origin story. Was that in fact your first band?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I had the high school death metal band called Carnage, which I think we recorded like one or two songs. I don't even know where those lie anymore. I wasn't even the primary writer of that. So me and my brother just tinkering around. It actually started on just an acoustic guitar and us just goofing on songs and almost Weird Al Yankovicing stuff and everything. So it started with a lot of humor, a lot of tongue in cheek, and And when we really started to get an actual band together, we were very heavily into GWAR and early Marilyn Manson, which a lot of people don't know about. The early years of Manson and the Spooky Kids, as they were originally called, and it was all shock rock stuff, and so there was an element of that. Plus, it was just a myriad of influences. We had a trombone player at one point in time, and he played on a bunch of songs and performed with us live. And probably the show that always sticks out for us, just recently, fellow metalhead that I've known for years, this guy Paul, he posted a flyer of HRD when we opened up for Cannibal Corpse with Crypt Kicker back in the day. So it was like us, Crypt Kicker. There was another band on there, and it was just like we did not make any sense on that bill, and we brought our own crowd, and it was a real division in there because there was the staunch metalhead death metal crowd, and then there was us, and we appreciated death metal, so we were happy to play with one of Florida's finest death metal acts at the time, but those that came for a death metal show, they were not up for the buffoonery that was HRD, because it was Mr. Bungle was a really good influence of ours as well on that, because it didn't matter what we just threw any genre into the soup, and it didn't really matter, and the performance was also just it was weird. So, but we had a lot of fun with it.
Well, you guys ended up really opening up. You opened up a whole world of music for me. Is one thing I want to articulate is that seeing you guys perform as a local act was the most exciting music and performance, right? It's like, whether anywhere along the spectrum of local act to arena act, I fucking loved the Family Riot from minute one, right? That I'm locked in and going, this is unlike anything I've ever heard. And I'm on a resonant frequency that like I didn't even know existed. You know what I'm saying? So it was unlocking this whole other genre style of music. It on a real surface level, there's this sense of blending melody with heaviness, right? That to me is just reflective of the world. I think that's the balance, the dark, the light, right? It's like, so you guys had that thing where you've got hooks and melodies and things that anybody can connect to, but you're also like playing the guitar one-handed while hitting the xylophone, and you know what I'm saying? It was like the dual vocals, all of it. And to the extent that there were influences, because I remember having those conversations when meeting you as being like, what do you listen to, right? That like inspires you, and so whether it's in terms of the music that I consumed as a result of those conversations, the degree to which I've seen your bands perform and have your albums in my shuffle, soundtracking my life and my world at any given time. I'm just genuinely a fan of your shit, dude, and I'm glad that you make music. There's that.
Honestly, Brian, what you saw of the Family Riot was probably really in all respects just the next level, a little bit more matured of Happy Rainbow Death. Just kind of just different players, so slightly different angle, but it grew out of that tree, because I mean, HRD, when we played back in the day, would play these shows with this band from Ashtabula called Mosquito Bitten Bastards, and that's how we met Todd. So that all tied in there.
I know that band.
Yeah, he knew, he was very well aware of what we were into, and he was into that stuff too. That's why we all became friends. That's why we shared bills together so much. And my brother was in Mosquito Bitten Bastards. I filled in on guitar a couple times when they were short a guitar player and stuff like that. So there was it just, I don't think you missed a lot. You know what I mean? If anything, I think me and my brother, I could safely.
I joined the train at the perfect moment. Yeah.
Yeah, you actually, we kind of refined what we were doing a little bit better during that time. I really loved that band too, but it just wasn't meant to last. So.
And that happens, and it's funny because there's a similar enough trajectory in that you never got to see Nosferatu or Drop, which were bands of mine in high school that featured Max, that featured Brian Knoll on vocals. You know what I mean? Like there were our same rough draft versions. But the other thing that was always funny to me when I found out you guys lived in Eastlake, and that between your band and like Farley and those guys, like there was this whole East Side crew, and we're all from like West, Bay Village, right? And Westlake. And it was like this, it was fascinating to realize, because it to me felt special growing up in a town where in high school, like, have you met Dan Peterson and Keith Gayton, those guys that are in like the A10s, and they still play out and do stuff, but they were in a bunch of punk bands over the years. But I mean, my only point is that there were probably like 5 to 10 different like active bands coming out of Bay High School that were all playing shows at the same time, and learning that there was also this like mirror scene going on in Eastlake, was just kind of fascinating to me.
Cleveland's always been separated by the East and the West, right? And so there's, and then, if you want to go south to Akron, there's another pocket of stuff going down there. But yeah, it's interesting how, I look at when I was a kid coming out of high school and whatnot, the world just like, it was a big world going to the West Side, playing a show over there, and stuff like that. And as time went on, like, the world got bigger. Then it was like a big deal that we played a show down in Columbus or up in Detroit. And then, time went on, and just, you go further and you go further and you go further.
This is all hilarious to me, who grew up in a town where like my graduating class was 86 kids and need to drive 2 hours across my district to get them.
Yeah, we've got like rival tribes, you know what I mean, of high school bands. Yeah.
I grew up in like a cow town in upstate New York.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
So like like I'm kind of right on the Pennsylvania, just off the Pennsylvania New York State border. Like, I don't know if you know Route 86, 17, whatever you call it when you're out there, the Southern Tier Expressway, whatever. But like, you know where Jamestown is?
So like near like, yeah, actually,
Keep going more into the sticks past Jamestown for an hour, then you'll find where I grew up.
Gotcha. So you're like beyond Chautauqua and the Finger Lakes, or like?
Yep. Keep going deeper.
I got you. So there is a band that just got back up and running from near that area. Why can't I think of the town? Olean, New York. So you're probably familiar with Olean.
Yeah, I'm 12 miles away. I've played many shows in Olean.
They are called the Dreadnecks, and they just finally got back up.
Hey, my buddy Grant and Snitty.
Okay, so Grant. Yep, they're back up and running again. And all right, Nick, you got to work with me, and we got to get Grant and the crew down here to Cleveland. That's got to happen. I love that band. Absolutely love. Now there you go. That is a performer. That Grant is the performer.
Grant is a professional wrestler kind of guy, so like he's always been hanging off of whatever he can get his ass up to.
Exactly. And he's fantastic. And he always finds like the sickest guitar players, man. So yeah, it doesn't matter who I'm like, what is going on in the water up here? Because everybody's chicken picking and flying on the 6-string or 7-string up there.
Dude, you honestly want to know what it is? It's because have you ever watched the movie Mystery Alaska?
No.
There's a line in that movie, and it's gonna be the similar thing is so in the movie the guy goes, "Look, I play hockey and have sex because it's the two funnest things to do in cold weather." Well, when you live out where we live, the only options are to play guitar and fuck. So if you don't knock anybody up and deal with teen pregnancy, you're playing guitar.
So that's pretty consistent to what he said. Maybe not exactly that, but that's when I asked Grant that, I'm just like, "What's in the water up here?" He's like, "There's nothing better to do is to like play a guitar or drums. What else are you gonna do?"
Pretty much. Yeah. Go hang out with the cows.
I guess.
Well, and that's a funny segue to me too, because I was thinking about Joe, how you also met me at a time where, on the one hand, the band had a trajectory of a sort. My group Dome at the time, right? As we're trying to come up in the scene. I also I'll tell people about the moment where my band played the main stage at House of Blues, and I remember just sort of realizing, like, man, I miss my kids, my family. Like, I'm not sure I'm working towards this goal that's going to take me away from being a homebody and doing this thing. And I feel like at one point in talking somewhere along those lines with you, I really got the sense that you were all in on music, right? That like, talking to you in terms of even broaching that possibility of being like, yeah, do you want to settle down and have a failure? Just like, no, dude, I want to play guitar and I want to go out there and I want to do music stuff. And so I think of people that are lifers, and I'll use that term in the music space, because it's been fascinating to say that talent ultimately wasn't a determining factor, is what I've observed to be true in who sticks around and who doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, I've met a lot of talented people and talented bands that kind of came and went. And you sort of go like, my mind ends up being blown at different people that I'm like, man, how do you spend that much time perfecting your craft and then walk away like it was nothing, Like, I literally cannot wrap my head around that shit. And so you just have always stood out as somebody who is uniquely determined to live the life and do the thing. And whether it's Trans-Siberian Orchestra or the Acid Bath Tour stuff, I mean, it's one of the reasons why, again, as I told you when we were first even planning this tour that's coming up, I'm like, I need to talk to Joe. I need a fucking captain in the boat that knows what he's doing. And yeah, I mean, above and beyond the friendship and respect for the music, there's this notion that, like, you're all in, dude. Like, you're serious about this shit,
Yeah, I listen, there was a moment, we were in between drummers during something involving a monkey. We had 3 drummers during that time. Of course, the first one was a tragedy, losing Todd. But our buddy, it just happened to work out. Our buddy Nick was coming back to Cleveland from he was living in New York City at the time, and he's like, I gotta go back home anyways. And we're like, well, you play drums and you're the personality for this, so that worked out. But things happen, and Nick had to move on. And so me and Bezo were looking for a drummer, and we didn't I didn't play out. I didn't do I was messing around with you guys with Cul-de-Sac Jones, but for the most part, it was the first time in my life I really had shelled any writing, because I was really just doing a little bit of writing with you guys, but for the most part, it was fun, but I liked kind of just I liken to my time on Cul-de-Sac Jones like my time is now with 10,000 Rambos. I love the music and the players that were within it, and all my buddies, and it was cool to like be a part of that music, but I really I wasn't creating what I totally like to create. And at that time, for the first time, I was just like, yeah, maybe I should just like, temper this back, or just what am I doing? Like, and I gotta be honest, I was absolutely miserable. I was truly, truly miserable. And it was truly one of the lowest points of my life. And I realized it's just like, no, this is just part of my DNA. This is just, I've got the job. I do all right with it. I'm in a career I don't mind, and whatnot. And it found me. I didn't find it, kind of stuff. But if I didn't still have the music to play and write and create and like that, I couldn't just do that job. That wouldn't give me enough satisfaction in life, you know. Uh,
Well, with music, it's too easy to come across heartbreak. With projects, it's like you dive all in, and like you reach the point where for some reason it's the project has to come to an end, and like, well, that sucks. And how do I move on from like this thing that I've been pouring my life into? And sometimes you just don't have an answer, and you're like, maybe this is the moment I do what everyone wants you and tells you to do: be respectable, be an adult. And like you said, the thing is with heartbreak like that, the only thing to do is to like get back up on the horse in some form or fashion, because it's just it's as much as you hate how that felt. You know, you gotta be happy that you could feel it, or whatever thing there is.
yeah. Well, it is true. I definitely. I mean, I was not happy when the Family Riot came to an end. You know, each one has its own story. I think HRD, we kind of saw the writing on the wall, but that helped spawn the Family Riot to become what it was. I thought it was a bit of an abrupt end, but we were able to at least finish those last songs, and Brian even helped us with a last performance and whatnot, that was great. I really appreciate that, dude. That was really cool. Yeah. And there's other ones where you know like you could say, yeah, Monkey ran its course for something involving Monkey ran its course for 12 years, but at the same token, like we had put a lot of time in that and everything, and if I would have just like left there and not, like you said, Nick, gotten on the horse and started writing other stuff, me and Scott, like I know I'd be just like absolutely miserable, be horrible. And
I've tried to quit a couple times in my life. Like, you know what? Okay, I've had enough of this. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna do adult shit now, and I'm miserable every time. I always find my way back. It's
I love the guys that post on social media. I this is gonna be my last show. I'm breaking up the band and I'm gonna retire from this music stuff. It's like, fuck you. You'll be back. We'll see you. I'll call you, and I'll call you out on it too.
I've never considered walking away at all. I'm always sad. Yeah. Anytime anything has come to an end, I've been bummed out about it. I want everything to go on forever and stay exactly, not stay how it is in terms of not evolving, right? But like, I it's funny to even to this is another scenario where I sort of recognize that we're using the language of romantic relationships, right, while talking about this creative unit. And it's like, yeah, like people talk about breakups.
There's nothing about being in a band.
Well,
There is nothing about being in a band that isn't analogous. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, it is. It
You're
totally
gonna tell me that being on stage isn't akin to sex?
yeah, the only part is keeping your pants on the whole time, right? At least for most
It's a
bands.
very masturbatory exercise.
But no, just being able to bounce back from that, and I don't know, like the idea of reaching a point in my life where I don't have interest or desire in creative expression. Yeah, I don't have any. I hope that never comes to pass. In fact, if anything, of late, I've been trying to lean into the idea. And Cul-de-Sac Jones, that band we played in, was an interesting light bulb moment for me. Obviously, super fun to collaborate with you. But the other reason that came about is that Levante, who was our main guy, left the country, right? And Levante would occasionally have rejected material, right? That I would bring stuff that I'd written to Dome, and he'd basically just sit there and be like, yeah, I don't know, I'm not feeling it. And I would write enough volume of material that was never really that big of a deal to me, that there weren't really songs that I have a memory of like dying on that hill. It was like, if he's not feeling it, he's not into it, it's like, whatever, another one will come along. But I mean, Cul-de-Sac Jones started off really with just going like, there is a collection of material that was too heavy for Levante, and so I kicked it off with that. But I remember just finding it so freeing to write for a project outside of my main band for the first time, and that opened up like little corners of the brain to just not worry about a thing that was defined as whatever that identity was. Like, is this a Dome song? Is this a Puma song? A couple places that I try to be at this point in my life is one, I like the idea of intentionally creating something without any caring about how it fits into anything. And I guess what goes hand in hand with that is trying to wrap my head around what I'll call like the ephemera of it all. Um, I've been so fixated on everything being permanent and legacy and all of this stuff, and you know, yeah, it's like I don't know, not to get on some super tangent, but I'm trying to get comfortable with the idea of art for art's sake. That to create something even in a void. I like the idea that to try to explain the concept simply, even if I was on a desert island with no fucking chance of ever interacting with another human being, but I still had a bunch of musical gear, I think I'd still want to make shit. You know what I mean? Just because it's part of the joy of being alive is to have creative expression.
That 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 would be your message in a bottle, Mr. Pritchard. That would be your message in a bottle. But I I I think one of the core concepts of what me and Scott decided to do when going with IREWYRM kind of falls into what you were saying there. Is we really didn't know, we had no concept of what the band was going to be. I just started throwing riffs at him, and he started throwing concepts back at me, and we just started having conversations and you know making arrangements, and a lot of it was, we're not going to go with songs, we're not that are epic or anything. We would spend so much time in something involving a monkey, and it worked for that band. I'm not complaining, but we'd spend so much time on these songs and refining them and going over and over again, and we're just like, you know what, let's be more instinctual in this band, and just throw a bunch of stuff out there, and what sticks stays, and what doesn't, maybe it'll turn into some one day, or maybe it won't. Who cares? You know? And both the previous recording session and the recording session that we just recently did with this, there's leftover material. And to me, that's good. You know, we've got a song hanging out there. It's a concept that Scott put together, and just like me and Dylan just didn't finish it, our parts in time for the recording. And I told Scott, I think was a little at first a little bummed. I'm like, no, man, look at what we did with there's on this album coming out this summer. There's a leftover from the first album, and I love the song. I absolutely and what I love about it is we didn't push it, and we let it sit. And Scott, of all people, ends up making absolutely perfect lyrics for it, perfect cadence for it, arranged the whole thing lyrically and vocally. And I'm just like, see, if we waited on this, and now, like, it's one of my favorite songs that we play, you know.
Just imagine feeling the
Some things
pressure
that, you
of
know,
having this guy behind you who just will not stop writing songs, and you want
It's
to
a
take your
machine, man.
time and like write lyrics that like are hit all the points, and then next thing you know he's got 3 more tracks. Like, dude, I can only write so fast.
I know.
Sorry.
So actually, I feel a little behind lately, because like we've been so focused on like getting this recording together, the tour that we're coming up, and getting the album out, and the promotion, and the that. I haven't been doing much writing lately, but that's kind of like, I've also learned that's kind of the push pull. You write a bunch of stuff, and you're just like, I got all this new stuff, like I got to get it out. And and with that, there's just all the work that goes on with that, and it's just like, that's fine, put the writing at bay for a minute. And I found that, like, when I go back and start experimenting and writing again, that it's like I got a fresh brain. It's I haven't done it. There's nothing there. There's nothing hanging out that's like um oh, I got to finish this, or I'm so close, or I got to do this, or I got to show Scott that, or Dylan this, or whatever. It's just like, no, it's like the palette is clear, the canvas is clear. I can do whatever the heck I want. That's the best time, honestly, because it's kind of exciting to see, like, I'll see what happens.
So I'll ask this question because all of us are men of a certain age, we'll just say. And one of the things that kind of weighs my mind is like I look back on like goals, and like for me it's the types of things that I want to do and still haven't done. I'm gonna be honest, this tour is one of the big check boxes. It's one of the things that's lingered over my head forever, that I've never gone on tour. I've never done that. Like, it's like one part of the whole musical, like, musician thing that I've never tackled. One of my other ones is like I want to be in a band with a full horn section. Like, I need to realize that. Like, I auditioned for one once, and they went with a woman instead. Actually, I take it back. I've just done it twice. I was accepted the once and immediately kicked out before the first practice for a woman. And then the second time I auditioned for, they just chose the woman instead the first time. But like, what kind of goals do you still have in music? Or do you even, is that a part of how you look at it still? Is there still things you want to accomplish?
That's a really good question. I guess I don't think about that. And yeah, I guess again, men of a certain age, I've kind of, any goals that I had in the past, just like, probably most of them weren't met. It can get difficult. With a band, for example, it's just like, well, we want to in X amount of years do this or do that. I know, like, something involving a monkey. We had tried to do that, but there were so many starts and stops And it wasn't anything like anybody's fault or nothing. It was just like life things would happen, you know. That band got off to one of the best starts I thought I ever had with any of my bands. We came out of the cannon, and then within 1 year, Todd dies, so that really changed the momentum of stuff and whatnot. So what I'm getting at is I've kind of abandoned that whole thing. I think one of my main goals is just to keep doing this, maintaining my health so that I can keep doing this, because there's a lot changing in the world out there. But the one thing that I'm noticing that people are still want and crave, no matter what age they are, is like a true human experience. And that live music, that's one of the true human experiences that you can have. Being in a room full of people, experiencing the performance of musicians through loud instruments. I guess it doesn't always have to be loud instruments, but for me, that's one of my favorite ways of experiencing it. And there's so many varieties and flavors of that, and I want to stay a part of that, and that's my biggest goal, really. And just keep doing it. And Scott, he's even older than me, and he's got the same mentality. And so we're just kind of like, I just don't care anymore. We don't. I'm also thankfully in a position where it's just like I can just like take a week off and drive west and play a bunch of small little venues with some friends and probably not make a lot of money, but have a shit ton of freaking fun. So I don't care. I want to keep having those experiences, because, the money stuff, it's just like, yeah, hey, it's the necessary evils is the money. But if I was doing this music thing for the money, especially in this day and age, I think it was actually Dave Brockie some years ago said in an interview that like the way that music was heading, he was seeing it is that actually the true artists are going to say it's going to be good for the genre, that music isn't as profitable as it used to be. It's because people were just making music because it was a business. And now I think you're getting more to what music always was. And I mean, back in the day, it was minstrels just going from town to town. That's what we are. We're just the modern day minstrels going from town to town. And whoever can, come out and see us and, throw some coins in the bucket, and we'll make it work, And I'd rather have that experience than sitting at home doom scrolling on my phone and just getting sucked into the garbage. I'd rather be outside. So there's my long-winded.
It's and that is a much now that's a much better outlook than like watching Rick Beato the other day, where he's like, well, basically the only people that get to make music now are all millionaires or people millionaire adjacent.
Yeah, I saw that. I like watching him, but at the same token, he comes from an era that is pining for that era to be again. And when the 90s were happening, I'm sure the guys from the 70s and 60s were pining for it to be like in their era, and pining it for it to be in the era before that. It's just, it kind of is what it is, and that kind of also goes along with what do you consider success of music. I mean, most people think, well, you can be a big rock star and make millions and travel all over the world. I'm like, is it?
I don't know. I've always liked the Mark Mothersbaugh like success, where yeah, you had one hit in a band that anyone cares about, and then you just work on TV and movie background music for 4 decades. You know, or the Danny Elfman.
But even that's not connecting with people, right? That's not live performance. That's not. Yeah. Well, Danny Elfman at least goes out and performs. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, so but I also, you know, I see, you know, I talk to a lot of bands, like way bigger bands that I know, and you'd be surprised how many of them have that band is not the primary income source.
Oh no, no. In fact, I think one of my favorite is almost all of them have tattoo shops. One of the member owns. So somebody in the band owns a tattoo shop.
Yeah, or they're teachers, or they're you know, luthiers, or they work in the service industry since they're in bars all the time, you know, or they just pick up random uh gig work. I mean, there's so many ways that you can support yourself, other ways that keep you flexible to be doing music. And you know, and I guess that was the other thing that I always felt too, and that's why I've always liked about Brian is that, you know, just because you're not quote unquote making it in music, it's just like you can still have a family, have a day job, and be a player on your local or regional scene, you know, and still be out there like music.
Yeah, I never liked the cop out when I'd been already living that life, and I had a young family. Anytime anybody would drop out of the scene, and there's been dozens, right? Who dropped out of the scene where it was sort of like, well, you know, I'm starting a family, I got to put away my toys. It's like, go fuck yourself, dude. You know?
Yeah, to me, we would still want that. You would still want that balance, but I never had kids, so and it just, you know, that was just a choice.
I think those people are being stupid, because then your kids can learn to quit what they want to do for stupid reasons. Honestly, I've had a kid through lots and lots of performing. Let's put it that way. I think the acquiescence I've ever made was, well, if I'm gonna play music, I guess I'll have to take the profitable music, like doing the cover gigs, more often than the original stuff, just because I'm getting paid to do it and I can use the money. That's the only acquiescence I've ever. I'm still gonna be out performing and playing one way or the other. It's just find a way to make it work.
Well, and it's not like you're denying your family. I mean, like, you know, people when they have families are still part of softball leagues and you know, it's pickleball or whatever the hell they're doing these days. You know what I mean? So it's just like you're just, you know.
We've always homeschooled my kids, so it's always been kind of the talk that, well, if worst comes to worst, we'll just buy a bus and then go touring with the family and whatnot. So
There you go. But again, it's like it's you're going to be doing something.
Other people's choices, though, like I ultimately don't want to judge anybody else. Like, people are going to naturally be drawn towards, to your point, spend it. That's all it ultimately reveals is it's clearly not a priority to you, right? In the way that it is to me, right? But I love that, like, we are for sure three lifers. You know what I mean? I know that to be true. That like, yeah, like, not, we all share that sentiment of I don't know. I was thinking a few minutes ago, it's like, yeah, we ought to start the retirement home for aging musicians. You know what I mean? Just so that we still have a place, even in the assisted living days. Like, we need practice rooms downstairs.
I told Rambos, I'm like, you know, sometimes like the age thing, you know, Two of the guys have crested the 50 mark, and I'm right behind them. And you know, they just a couple of years ago released an EP called Old Men Dying. You know, I mean, I would just lean into it. I'm like, let's just be the oldest grindcore band ever. You know, let's outlive Napalm Death. You know, it's just like, just go for it. Hell with it. You know, we'll be the grindcore band where the drummer and the bassist and guitar player and the vocalist will all be in a wheelchair still performing. Like, we'll just keep it going. We'll get up on there on walkers. I don't care.
What's really funny is, like, 'cause I've leaned into the idea of dad rock. It's me and Brian are both dads. Noel's a dad. Like, we got a bunch of dads in the band. And what's really funny to me is, like, when I say it, I think, like, God, man, do you remember what dad rock was like 20 years ago? And, like, now that we're dads, like, the dad rock is My Chemical Romance and frickin', like, yeah, all the shit from when I was a teenager in my 20s and shit. And you're like, and now what's my kid's dad rock gonna be?
Yeah, my girlfriend's one kid, Sal, or one day I was driving, he was driving, and I'm like, oh man, you know, like, System of a Down song comes on, and a Puddle of Mud song comes on, and then a Korn song comes on, and I'm just like, yeah, so you're listening to that stuff. He's like, well, yeah, I mean, you're probably not gonna like the title, but I call it my, you know, dad list. It's basically him when he was growing up. It was his dad's music, you know, and that's the stuff that his dad was listening to. And so which is good. He likes it, but the reality is he knows exactly where it came from. It didn't come from his generation.
I have a terrible joke for that. Just because you said Puddle of Mud, and I'm like, oh well, that explains why Dad's not in the picture anymore.
Ow, 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 ow. And he's still around. Come on, give the guy a
I'm
break.
sure Puddle of Mud doesn't like that joke.
Ouch.
Well, I can't wait to have daily conversations on the road when we're out together, crossing the United States, and I hope it proves to be the first of many collaborative ventures, you know. And yeah, no, I'm grateful for the decades of collaboration thus far and the decades of collaboration ahead. And I'm grateful for your time today, Joe. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and it made me realize all the things that I've been involved in, and always crisscrossing across that path is Mr. Pritchard. There's never too long of a stretch of road where I don't like cross Mr. Pritchard. Nick, have you ever heard the Mr. Pritchard song, the Family Riot song called Mr. Pritchard?
No, I'm unaware of the Family Riot, so
Yeah, I got to send it to you. It is literally a song all about Brian, and I love that song too. It was a heavy song.
So what are we gonna play? What are we gonna play the audience out with today?
What were we gonna play out with?
Yeah, what are we gonna send them out with? What song do you want us to run at the end?
Yeah, what song of yours do you want them to hear as we're ending the episode? Yep.
I want to go with the new stuff. The new stuff somehow.
Yeah,
all right,
great.
Someone somewhere fucked up something somehow. Celluloid, and we're turning it into music and podcast for you.